So here's a quick recap of where we are in this story. I had just met Peter's mother approximately 2.5, 3 weeks after we officially started dating. Some might argue that was way too soon. It is what it is. I won't comment on that right now. What I do know is that it was full steam ahead. We were spending most of our nights together. Usually the way it would work out is that I would go and pick him up when his shift was over, and then we'd walk back to his place just like that very first night. And I forget when exactly this happened, but at some point he got fired from Target, actually, and he had already been working at a restaurant in a very touristy part of San Francisco. That's all I'll say. And so he started working there full time, which is what I had initially told him to do. Didn't make sense to keep both jobs. So again, just throwing that out there. All will come up later on in the story. But at this point, again, 3 weeks into our relationship is when you can say that the honeymoon phase kind of ended, right? Thank God I never married this man. Anyway, so I'm actually going to describe 2 fights that we had. I don't remember extremely specific timelines. Much of what I am depending on and what I'm sharing with you are things that I wrote in my journal. So my journals, because again, this all took place over 4 years, almost 4 years. So I'm not always going to journal about, anyway, I'm not going to explain my journaling habits, but anyway, one evening, I met him at his job and we walked back to his place together, and I had just gone shopping. So I had a bunch of groceries, and the plan was that we were going to make dinner together and watch a movie, right? So he had told me I don't remember exactly when this took place, but basically we had kind of an understanding that right when he gets off work, sometimes he just wants to be quiet, right? And so I understood that, I just kind of want to give him his space, not just start, talking right at once. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with being quiet and walking for a little bit. So, however, on this particular evening, he started to complain about how bad his day was and how he was all stressed out and how this and that had happened, and just on and on and on and on and on. And the thing is that I'm not trying to play like I'm innocent in any of this, okay? It definitely takes 2 to tango. But I do remember that on this specific day, I just kept quiet. I just let him go on, and then it continued, and finally I had had enough. And I realized he hadn't even thanked me for the groceries that I had bought. And I ended up leaving his place that night and going back to my place. Now, I'm very much the type of person who prefers to keep does not like public spectacles. I'm not the type of let's deal with our problems behind closed doors. This is none of anybody's business. I say that for a reason. Because Peter, I came to realize, was the type of person where that's a tactic that he used kind of as leverage, was starting arguments in public and then limiting my capacity because, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. And the point I'm trying to make is that, anyway, the dots only connect when you look backwards. But that argument happened, and I remember telling my friend about it, that we like made up shortly afterwards, and I kind of told him like, that's not gonna happen ever again. Like, I'm not gonna show up, you know, with groceries for us and then just hear you rant and bitch and moan and never once even say thank you or ask me how my day went. And maybe that's not the right attitude. Maybe that's selfish of me. But I also remember that I told this to a friend of mine, and I commented like, oh, it's almost as though he talked to his mom, brutally honest with you guys, and was like, and his mom told him like, what's wrong with you? This guy showed up with groceries. Like get over your bitchiness. Full disclosure, just being honest. So anyway, maybe, I don't know, a matter of weeks after that, we have our second huge argument, and this might leak over into the next video, but it is important. It is important, and I as much as I absolutely hate this memory and hate going back to this place, it's something that I have to share that's pertinent to the story. It's an event that took me months, actually more like over a year, before I finally forgave myself for what took place that night. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and get a fresh start in the next video, because this argument that we had actually resulted in our first break. It was not a breakup. We took a mutual break, and I will say this again, but I don't want people to think or get the sense that this was the type of relationship where like we get mad at each other and break up. No, that was not the case, and I will say that again. But we did take one break that I will talk about in the next video. The other thing that I have to mention, that I will obviously talk more about when it gets to that point, is that I have a looming announcement that I'm getting ready to make that it's not like, this is directly tied, I believe, to why Peter and I's relationship did not work. So I can't sit here and put all the blame on Peter, because I would argue that we had circumstances in our relationship that are not anywhere close to typical or average. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I will talk more about that in the next video.